All right, let's bring in our Monday panel of parliamentary journalists now. Today we're joined by Susan Delacourt, columnist with the Toronto Star. Mia Rabson is with the Canadian Presse, and Joël-Denis Bellavance, the parliamentary bureau chief for La Presse. Good to see you all. Susan, here we are on International Women's Day, and the Prime Minister and his government are facing a barrage of questions and a widening probe into the sexual misconduct allegations against the former Defence Chief Jonathan Vance. Accusations of inaction in dealing with the allegations. Look, let me start there. How damaging could this issue be to the government, and in particular to the Prime Minister's brand?
Very. I was quite struck, though, by how much the Prime Minister was sticking by Minister Sajjan last week, and the fact that on International Women's Day, sometimes there is a tradition where they have women asking and answering all the questions in the House. But Mr. Sajjan, such is the now, this has moved to the top of the opposition agenda and the government agenda, and it was Minister Sajjan who was doing all the answering today. I'm not sure that we got any real answers, but that's not unusual for question period. But I do think that on International Women's Day, this issue, the Prime Minister he's right to say that this has been a big issue for him. Back when he was in opposition, this was an issue on which he tried to stake out feminist friendly ground, and for this to be dogging him right now on International Women's Day, as you say, is damaging to the brand.
Mia, what are your thoughts on this?
It was interesting to hear Sajjan today because he kept saying he looks forward to showing up at committee. He provided a little bit more information maybe about what the Privy Council office did with the military ombudsman after the allegations were first raised. It suggests there's maybe more to the story that the government hasn't released, but that sort of comes back to this government's sort of allergy to providing information. They sort of keep every little detail that they can private until they absolutely have to release it. Why they wouldn't have come forward already and provided any of the information that they have to explain what actually happened, why it took more than a week for us to realize that the Privy Council office had in fact tried to look into this case. It sort of speaks to how difficult sometimes these are to investigate. And it also suggests that, as many have said, we need a better way to investigate allegations of this kind in the military. Clearly, this is not a one-off case. The government needs to move very quickly to try and figure out a better way to investigate.
Yeah, this net the committee's casting is getting wider and wider, Joël-Denis. It's going to go back now and ask Ray Novak, who worked for Jason Kenney, and Stephen Harper to appear to talk about General Vance and what the previous government might have known about all of this. How do you view this? Is this a big problem for Justin Trudeau, or how important will it be depending on where this investigation goes?
Well, it depends how well Mr. Arjit Sajjan, the defense minister, performs while he will testify. He wants to testify again in front of the committee. There is a clash of versions between his version and the one from the ombudsman, former ombudsman of the Armed Forces, Gary Wellborn. Now, Mr. Sajjan said in the House of Commons today an interesting comment that it's not up to politicians to investigate those allegations. Right. Well, I would say that it's up to ministers to make sure that if there's no investigation, that there is a full investigation. So there might be a fault line there. But his next testimony before the Defense Committee, when it happens, promises to be a very interesting testimony.
Susan, the Conservatives have a virtual policy convention coming up in 10 days from now. And leading into that gathering, there are a virtual gathering, lots of questions swirling around Erin O'Toole's leadership and the battle for control of the party. How serious are his problems, and how does he deal with them?
You know, I just thought this was the normal stuff of new leaders for about a month or two there. But the fact that it's getting out now, the fact that you're seeing members of parliament, not naming themselves, of course, but members of parliament whispering to the media. I joke that, disgruntled liberals used to be a beat on Parliament Hill, and now we do seem to have disgruntled conservatives. And it's a pretty strong rift that dogs Mr. O'Toole himself. It's what he did to become leader versus what he wants to do to become prime minister. And those are two different things. We've talked about that on this panel before. Yep. Either you win a leadership one way, you win an election another way. And the party is having trouble with this, and this is now Mr. O'Toole's problem. I find it I wrote about this. I find it unfortunate that they're having a virtual convention because some of this stuff is the stuff you work out in the hallways or in the bars or in the hospitality suites at a convention, at a real convention.
Hard to do
And the
that
fact
virtually.
this one is virtual. There's no chance to do that. So I don't know that the convention is going to solve any of these problems.
Mia, what responsibility, I think Susan touched on it, does Erin O'Toole bear for these troubles now? And it makes me wonder, during the leadership race, it's the kind of thing that, you know, Peter MacKay may have seen coming, because he was clear out of the gate saying, here's how I'm going to deal with social conservative issues in the party. And that probably cost him the leadership. And so what about that? What responsibility does Mr. O'Toole have for where he is now?
Well, I mean, he's the leader of the party, so all of the responsibility, really. I mean, he's the one who ran his leadership campaign the way he did. He's the one who courted certain segments of the party to win that vote. He's the one who's responsible for the actions and the policies that he's enacting now. So when it comes to his leadership, it's all on Erin O'Toole. These are not new issues for the Conservative Party. Abortion in particular, and the social conservative wing, and how the two sides of that party figure out a way forward is sort of an age-old story for the Conservatives. So the fact that we're going into this again and having these questions rise, I mean, many people think it was one of the main reasons why Andrew Scheer did so poorly in the last election. So Erin O'Toole not being able to see forward and see his way out of that, or have a plan or a strategy to do that, absolutely he bears responsibility for that. I also take what Susan said and I think it's an important note. Not only is this convention virtual, everything about this has been virtual for Erin O'Toole. He has not really been in a room with Conservatives in person since he became leader, for sure, but even throughout the leadership race. He didn't have a chance to make those in-person connections, and I think some of this might be because of that. But we're still months into this. This is all on them to figure out, and so clearly he hasn't figured out a way to solve the problem.
You know, and here we are with the possibility of a snap election at some point hanging over us, Joël-Denis, and nothing is more the enemy of an opposition party that wants to form government than viewers thinking they can't get their own act together. So how important is that convention, and I suppose the days following that, for Mr. O'Toole?
It is a critical convention, as you mentioned. We might have a snap election this spring, and for the Conservative Party and for Mr. O'Toole particularly, he needs to put to rest the issues that divides Canadians, namely the social issues, and that's always an internal beginning for a new leader of the Conservative Party. You have to deal with those issues every time they come to lead that party. Now, Peter, we know we always describe the job of the opposition party as the toughest one in the country in normal times. These are not normal times, so it's even tougher for Mr. O'Toole to get some attention, media attention, because all of the attention is on the government and the way it is managing the pandemic these days.
All right, lots to look forward to in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you all for your time today. Great to talk to you all, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.